is it true that the IBM sales team is going to sell Brave AI product?
The answer to that is if the product meets their internal, technical requirements, et cetera, and, it meets the remit internally at IBM, the answer is yes. So let me get very specific on that. What I mean by the answer is yes is we have a bunch of agreements signed with IBM, both for joint marketing efforts as well as to be an embedded service within IBM. Now, that means that at least all the, call it, legal foundation has been set for us to go after this market together. How exactly that turns out in terms of how we go to the market, I would say, one, it comes down to quality of the underlying product. There, I think the risk of failure is very, very minimal because we're co-developing it with IBM, and therefore we'll ensure that it meets their internal technical standards. And the second thing, which is really exciting, is myself, Ross, Michael Doback, someone who's working with us, a gentleman named Jim Drill, are all meeting with senior members of IBM early next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, really to map out what the go-to-market beta program, pricing, et cetera, is going to look like for this product. We're really excited that we have a bunch of beta customers already signed up who we can test all of these assumptions with. But basically, to set down the staple assumptions, we'll be doing that early next week. We're incredibly excited about this partnership. I mean, having a partner like IBM with us, with their excellent execution capabilities, really brings our value to a new set of customers and people who otherwise would not really realize the value of this underlying technology.
What could that mean for the CSPR token holders?
It's obviously positive, right? Anything that is posted onto the main chain, the public chain, will require CSPR to pay for underlying gas fees. And so, the amount of transactions that could hit the network could be incredibly large. If you think about it, AI systems change context very, very often. So let me explain what that is. So let's explain what would hit the public blockchain, right? And what we're actually capturing. An AI system, the context has three components. The context of an AI system is a sum total of what's the underlying LLM that's currently being used, how has it been parameterized? So that means what's your sampling method, what are your p-values, k-values, etc. And third are what are the data sets that were used to train this? Now, you change any one of those things. You change the parameters, you change the data sets that are used to train it, you change the underlying model, your context has now switched. Now, there might be other factors that we also include that would denote a context switch. But anytime a context switch occurs, that's all logged on the Casper blockchain, because logging it allows you to do three things that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. One is auditable and certifiable end-to-end data integrity, meaning you have an audit path of every single data set that went in and attributability of where a hallucination or bias occurred. And that's very, very useful. Second, because you're logging all of these things, you now have the ability to version control. Meaning you can very easily, like one of the biggest problems with AI today, and by the way, I love AI. I think it's going to be game-changing for the world. But one of the issues is version control is nigh impossible. So, say your AI starts behaving badly, you can't hit a button and go back to a previous version. Now, you can do that on Windows, you can do that on iOS, you can do that with your operating systems, your files, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, for AI, it's a little more complex because you're capturing several things. There's a model, there's a parameterization, and the data sets. But our system will allow this version control. And three, really importantly, is it allows access across multiple parties. So if you go to the webinar, and Maciej, in the video, we should share the link of the webinar, starting around minute 25, 26. What we show there is two different software companies using a third-party LLM can all interact in an extremely seamless manner. And you don't even need to do like a consortium chain or anything that complicated. All of this will be a seamless user experience for the end user and customer. And we're really, really excited to be on this journey with IBM, building this product for the end user.
Third quarter of this year, right? After the Condor update on the mainnet.
Correct. And just to be clear, we're not delaying the development of this. We're not waiting for Condor. Like we know what's happening on Condor. So development, basically the proof of concept was built last year. So if those of you tuned into the Gartner webinar, we started coding it in September. We presented it on November 3rd. And since November 3rd, what we did in the back half of last year is get all our contracts signed. So as an IBM, are fully, like the partnership is fully, papered. What we've been doing since then is we've been in active development, both in terms of full architecture diagrams, which we're doing in concert with IBM, as well as non-functional requirements. Things like what level of hybridity are we bringing to the blockchain? What kind of scaling solutions do we have as these grow? Is it one master smart contract, or does each customer have their own master smart contract? All of these things are, and of course, every design decision we're making is to ensure that the platform scales really, really well. So those are the things that are in active development right now. So we're not waiting on the Condor release. Programming, structuring, etc., is all going side by side. So we aim to have the product out in the market by Q3. The way to think about it is you can design a contract to pay for itself, meaning the contract can hold a balance. Obviously, you can change that balance at any time. But what's good about it is a contract can pay for itself. So every single deploy doesn't have to be initiated by a user. So once a contract, it says, hey, every time we see a context change, let's bring it back to this example. Every time we see a context change to the underlying AI model, we want to post a reference to the mainnet of the Casper blockchain. That can be fully automated. So as long as a balance is held, those transactions will just deploy automatically. And that's very, very important, right? You don't want each someone to have to manage balances, someone to have to, with every single deploy, ensure that, gas is set. And this actually makes these systems much more scalable and automated.
Another question.
Yep.
Does that mean that CSPR tokens will be on IBM balance sheet or any other company balance sheet to use the Casper network?
There's two modes, right? So CSPR is used regardless. So if you're hosting to mainnet, CSPR is used regardless. The two options are either company takes it on their balance sheet and does everything themselves, or they pay a SaaS fee and either us or a third party can handle it, right? It's just like this actually could become like a really interesting. What's beautiful about a Condor release is this could be a very interesting business model for many people in the community. Because what you can do is, especially if you're a validator and you hold a balance, and there are customers or projects that want to use, the Casper blockchain, but they're like, hey, I don't want to deal with, the token side of it. Is there someone who I can just pay, hey, $200 a year or $200 a month, and you just manage, all the CSPR on the back end for us? Obviously, how that's going to be priced post Condor, et cetera, will have to be figured out. Obviously, cryptocurrencies are volatile, but because of the refund mechanic that's going to happen in Condor, effectively gas becomes a cost of capital. And this should actually send much more transactions to the blockchain than ever before. So Maciej, the answer is it could be either. So regardless of which modality people choose, that is, the company chooses to take it on their balance sheet themselves, or they just prefer to pay a software as a service fee and have someone else handle it. Effectively for the network, it looks exactly the same. It just comes down to what level of, risk or convenience the end customer wants to take. But we think it's important to provide that option. Now think about this, right? If you don't have that option, a company might not use the product only because their chief risk officer or their general counsel says, hey, look, this product's great, we want to use it, but hey, in our jurisdiction, there isn't much certainty about what we can do, what we can hold on our balance sheet. We'd rather avoid that. Now, your choice is lose that customer or give them the option that, no, we'll deal with all of that on the back end, or find a third-party provider that can deal with that for you. You just pay, a SaaS fee. So I would not characterize it as a pivot, but an augmentation. It's an additional option. If people want to do it, the way it's done today, have at it. It's absolutely fine. If people want to do it, via the SaaS model, that's also an option. And just so people know, this is not new. We've been working on this since April of 2023. So, people are like, oh, Q3, that sounds very, very fast. I'm like, no, we had our POC already built by November. The IBM team, there's several developers from IBM plus several developers on our end who are both working on this product. And so that's where I've been mostly involved. I do think now, the reason why that's a large focus area for us is there's one characteristic that AI governance has that no other vertical has. And that is it's new and the tech stack has not been defined yet. So the issue that blockchains always had, and any new technology always has this. The cloud had this also, but now it's a $5 trillion industry. But if you remember in the early days of cloud, and it took like a decade to get the model right, it was very, very hard to get companies to do it because they're like, hey, look, my on-prem system still kind of works. I know I get a lot more flexibility. I know it's cheaper, but hey, why would I take the headache? And then, with continued education and refining of the model, and really the big linchpin there was when AWS allowed hybrid systems. You can mix and match your on-prem and off-prem. It suddenly took off. So the beauty of AI governance is there isn't an existing tech stack. It isn't like, oh, AI governance today is all using Kubernetes and Mongo databases. It's a new industry, and there's this opportunity to make the tech stack correct right from the beginning. So if blockchain is embedded into the tech stack right from the beginning, it's now just the way that industry operates, as opposed to, hey, there are these choices. And I'm not saying that's what will end up happening, but that's an opportunity that really hasn't existed where, hey, it's two brand new, blockchain is not a brand new industry, but it's this brand new industry and a brand new way to sell blockchain services, which Condor enables, which is you can make them fully SaaS while, a lot of gas is being spent on the network. And that, I think, that combination of being able to sell it as a SaaS product while still, creating demand for, gas and utility of the underlying network and not having, an incumbent tech stack to compete with makes it very compelling. And so we're gonna take it very, very seriously. We think, AI governance in itself is most likely going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry. And there's every indication that it's going to be regulatorily mandated. There was a Biden executive order in the United States. There was the EU AI Act. There was the, UK AI Act. And I think, irrespective of political proclivity or which way, parties lean, I think there's a general agreement that responsible use of AI and the ability to govern and track AI is incredibly important because as a technology, it can go off the rails pretty fast, and people are going to be much more comfortable using it if they know you have things like version control or end-to-end auditing. To be clear, we're not trying to make the AI explosion slower. On the contrary, we're trying to make it faster. You're much more likely to drive fast if you have a seatbelt. So wear that seatbelt. That's the way we describe it.